اتكلم معانا النهارده عن موضوع انا ما زلت بعوزه وعيالي شحوطه، يعني 20 و18. باذن الله نعمه وبركه ونستفاد كلنا منها. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Starting with thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Amen. Thank you.
All yours. Hi guys, how are you? What are we doing wrong here? Is that
On the church,
good? How are you?
are you connected on the network? The same one. Can I share this a password with you here?
Yeah, you should be able to. Oh.
It's not like it's not on. Stop meeting.
Broadcast. Or no?
انت عايزين اللابتوب ولا الموبايل؟
So I can start.
raising resilient children in Christ. So just defining, what does it mean to be resilient? So resilience means kids who are strong, kids who, when they have difficult situations, instead of falling apart or crying or getting real angry, when they're resilient kids, they see a challenge or they see a stress in life and they feel confident that they can overcome it. So we want to talk about how we can best raise resilient kids. So about what are some of the parenting challenges we see when we're trying to raise kids? What gets in our way of raising kids in a way that we're comfortable and confident in? What are some, when you think of parenting, and I say, do you know how to do the right parenting? Do you know how to make your kids strong? What are some things that come to your mind? Yes. So there's a question of how much protection do I do? Do I do a lot of protection? Do I try to let them figure it out on their own? At the first sign of a problem, do I come in and help them, right? So overprotecting. What's another one? You should be doing. I remember when I was little, my dad would joke with me and he'd go, I had, but the problem is none of you came with a book. None of you came with directions about how to do it. So I think it's very hard often because there's so many different opinions about what's the right way to raise a child and make them strong. Many different messages, right? Somebody goes, oh, do timeout. Oh, do spanking. Oh, don't give them any choices. Oh, give them choices. So it gets so confusing because we're trying to listen to all opinions. Also remember how my parents raised me or how your parents raised you or what your parents did and what should work with my child, right? So it can get very messy and confusing. What's another thing that makes us very concerned or I think we're on next slide. So what's another thing maybe that makes us stressed out a little bit when we're trying to parent and not parent well? Sometimes when we're parenting, our kid comes to us and says something and we go, no, you can't do that. No, we're not going to do that. And then the child starts going, no. I have to go up there. So then all of a sudden, right, you think you're on the right path for what you're going to do and how you're going to parent. And then all of a sudden you're met with a level of the child pushing back on you. And that becomes very stressful. So that would be one of the challenges we face, right? We start to then go off course from what we thought we were going to do. The other one up there in the bottom, the green, it says fear. So I think these are one of the challenges that we face as parents when we're trying to raise strong, resilient kids. So what are some things that we fear when we're parenting? Yes. Is this?
Am I like 100% sure what I'm doing is correct? But I'm doing it with the correct method.
Right? Is this right? Is this wrong? Maybe not. So fearing whether or not we're doing it right or wrong. What else do we fear? Culture. We do. We're so fearful of culture. I was born here, so I'm not so scared of it, but I can't even imagine picking up, moving somewhere, not understanding the culture, seeing the bad things in this world, in America, and then being terrified if I do one wrong thing, all of a sudden their lives are gone, right? So we fear the culture. What else do we fear? Come on, guys, what else do you fear? I still have these fears. What else do we fear? We fear the kids having peer pressure. Absolutely. Are they going to be strong enough? Are they going to fall? I fear, you know what one of my biggest fears was? My kids are older now. They're 21 and almost 18. But one of my biggest fears was if I'm not tough enough with my kids, they're going to lose the church. And it's still a fear, right? I need to be tough and strict so they stay in the church. I think that's one of the, I don't know, no one else? Anyone else? That's not one of my biggest fears. All right. Any other fears that we can think of? Whether they're going to be successful, right? Whether or not they're going to do well academically, that's a huge fear. Am I pushing them hard enough? All right. So let's talk about what our parenting goals are. We already know what kind of gets in the way of our challenges of raising resilient kids. Let's talk about what should be our goal, right? What we should be focusing in on. The first one, parenting children to the kingdom of God. We want, first and foremost, obviously, to be raising our kids in the spirit of Christ, right? That's our number one goal, obviously. Whoops, we lost our second goal. Our second goal. Think of what Christ does with us. So our second goal is that our children know that they are unconditionally, undeniably loved. No matter what, they're loved. Who does that for us? Who? God. That God is love. We are his children. We are loved. So no matter how many times we fall down, we get back up because we know we are loved, right? And this is the same goal that we need to have for our children. The third one, children need to know that they are seen by their parents. What's that mean, that they're seen? So there's obviously the I see you, right? But it also means, okay, Hippa, I know you. I understand you. I know what makes you nervous. I know what makes you happy. I know what makes you disappointed. Even before something happens or even before someone says something, I can anticipate what that's going to make you feel like. That's what seeing your child means, right? They also need to be heard, right? Along with being seen and heard, they need to know that you are going to listen to them. No matter how small, whether they're 21 or 2, they need to know that they're going to be heard. They're going to have a voice. We also have to be sensitive to our child's emotions, right? This is one of our parenting goals. What else is our parenting goals? We need to protect our child. And we need to find that balance, right? We can't be on one end of everything is so scary, and on the other end, everything is just fine, go ahead. It's finding the middle ground. And then we also have to be our child's guide. So these are our goals. So there's a theory. There's been a lot of research about parenting. And the research on parenting, everybody wants to know what makes the most resilient child. The child that when there's a problem, they don't crumble and fall and cry and get angry and throw things. They're a child who, yes, may feel anxious or worried, but guess what happens? They feel like they have the strength to get up with their support of their mom, their dad, their priest, their servant, their coach, their teacher, their aunt, their uncle, and overcome whatever challenge there is. So research has defined 4 different types of parenting styles. So there's 4 different types. So the first type up there is called permissive. We're going to go through it in detail, but I just want to give you an overview. The second one's called authoritarian. The next one is called authoritative. And then the next one we're going to call neglectful. So there's 4 parent types. So as we're going through them, I want you guys to try to figure out, there's one that research shows that if you parent this way predominantly the most, you don't have to be perfect. No one's perfect. Trust me. Be a big hypocrite as I'm standing here. My kids, if they're watching it, they're going to be laughing at me, right? No one is perfect. But the research shows if you predominantly lean towards this type of parenting style, your child is going to be the most well-adjusted socially, academically, every realm, okay? So let's go through them. So the first one is permissive parenting style. So permissive, right, it means that anything is going to go. So when you are a permissive parent, or if you're watching a permissive parent, what are you going to see the parent doing? What you're going to see is that they have very, very few rules, very, very few boundaries. You're going to see that even if they set a rule, guess what? They're going to be like, malish, oh, no big deal, right? So any rule that they may have, when a child breaks it, they're going to be very easy to just let it go, right? Yeah.
So أنا كلمت عن المخاوف اللي عندنا تسوكي مع المخاوف اللي عندنا كأهالي أكتر حاجات إحنا بنخاف منها وإحنا بنربي العيال. كلمت عن الأهداف الكبيرة اللي عندنا، الأهداف الروحية إن إحنا عايزينهم يتربوا جوه الكنيسة، قريبين من ربنا، يحسوا إنهم محبوبين كلية وبلا شروط، unconditional love زي ما ربنا بيحبنا. كلمت إن إحنا أولادنا كأهداف كبيرة إنهم يحسوا إن إحنا شايفينهم مش بالنظر أو كده، لكن عارفينهم من جوه لبره، فاهمينهم، بنقدر نقرا مشاعرهم قبل ما يضطروا يقولوها. والحاجة التانية إن إحنا يكون عندنا حساسية ليهم، تقدير ليهم، لمشاعرهم وكيانهم الشخصي. وبعدين اتكلمت عن إن في الدراسات بتقول أحسن حاجة إن إحنا الطفل اللي هو، يعني أنا مش لاقية اللفظ المظبوط قوي بالعربي، لكن لريزيلينت، بس هو مرن، يعني الطفل اللي عنده مرونة ده يعني طفل غير قابل للانكسار بالبلد، يعني اللي هم الأطفال اللي مش أي حاجة تيجي تحصل لهم في حياتهم يا ينهاروا يا إما يتكسروا يا إما نفسيتهم تضعف، شخصيتهم تتهز. اللي بيقاوموا يعني. سوري؟ اللي بيقاوموا بيبقى عندهم مقاومة، بيبقى عندهم نوع من أنواع إنهم لو حاجة ضايقتهم أو كده يقدروا يقوموا ويجمعوا نفسهم تاني ويكملوا من غير ما تسيب سكارز جواهم أو تأثر في نفسيتهم جامد. وفي 4 أنواع من نوع التربية اللي احنا بنعملها. أول نوع هو البرميسيف، اللي هو النوع المتفاوت المتهاون جدا. كلمة متهاون اللي هم ما عندهمش أي بقى قوانين والدنيا سداح مداح والعيل عايزه يتفضل وكده عشان أحب أدلع عيالي والكلام ده. ودول ما بيحبوش انهم يضايقوا العيال، فما بيحبوش يبقوا هم الاشرار ولا كده، ويوجولي بيمشوا، ما بيحبوش يقولوا لا. وتاني نوع هو الاوثوريتيف اللي هو المتحكم، عامل زي حكم قراقوش يعني، ولا كان اسمه ايه بالبلد، لو يحب يبقى مسيطر يعني. انا بقول لكم كلام مش علمي ابدا، بس انا مش في مخي الترجمه اللفظيه المظبوطه. وبعدين هنقول I'll look up exact language على بالنا.
All right. So, can we actually go back one slide to permissive still? Or did she finish talking about it? Okay, you did everything? Okay. But do you talk about the outcome of the child?
Not yet.
No. Okay. Oh, can we just go back to permissive? Sorry. So again, these types of parents, the permissive parent is very loving. They love their child so much. They'll do anything for their child, but it's doing it to a fault, right? They're missing the mark. So what happens if you raise your child like in that style? What do we think is going to happen? They won't know how to face difficulties. Nope. How are they going to do with rules? Will they do a good job following rules? No, nope, they're not going to do a good job following rules. What happens? You know, the other interesting thing about this, you think that I'm giving them so much love, but guess what happens to these kids who are raised like this? Their self-esteem, the way they feel about themselves, is very small. So we're not building resilient kids when we do this. They definitely have more problems in relationships.
I think they feel, I'm not sure maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong, but I think the child feels that you're not really care about him. So your love doesn't translate it. So you may feel like as much as I offer to him, he's gonna feel love, but I think it's the opposite happens.
Yeah, I think there's an emptiness. They feel like there still needs more and more and more. They're just used to getting whatever they get, right? So it makes it difficult. These kids also have poor relationships with friends because they've learned that whatever they want, they get. So they go from that main parent relationship where they model every other relationship in, and they assume the next relationship, they're going to get the same sort of relationship. Mom and dad gave me everything I wanted. Oh, this friend should too. Oh, no? Oh, forget that friend. This friend, no, you're not going to give me up. Forget it. So they have very bad relationships, and that then, of course, impacts self-esteem. Yeah, sorry. So let's go to the next parenting style. It's called authoritarian. Authoritarian. So this type of parent is very different, right? They have very high expectations. The other parent, the permissive, had no expectations. Authoritarian has very high expectations, very high standards, right? The parent who's authoritarian expects you to obey, and you obey without ever questioning or asking. You just do. So the thing that you're going to hear a lot of authoritarian parents say is, you do it because I said to do it. Listen to what I'm saying. I don't want to hear you talking. Shh. Kids should just be looked at, not listened to. So that's going to be the kind of thing that authoritarian parents, that's the way they deal with their kids. So what do we think these types of kids will be like? What message are these kids getting about themselves? They are inferior. They're not important. They don't feel loved. They tend to be very unhappy kids. They tend to be kids who, guess what, no matter how strict you are with them, guess what they end up doing when they get older? They rebel. And guess what? Let me tell you something. They don't just rebel when they're older. They'll find little sneaky ways to do it when they're little. I'll give you guys a personal example, which my kids were just beating me up over it, literally like last weekend. They were talking to a friend and they were comparing whose parent was more strict. And again, I really wanted my kids in the church. I was so nervous about that. And I was trying to remember how my parents raised me. We had no cable. We had 3 channels. There was no TV. I mean, we were raised very strictly. So when my daughter finally got a cell phone, I decided no Safari. Now, that's fine. You know, let's say she gets in 7th grade. Maybe that's okay. We can talk about that. But guess when I let her get Safari on her phone? You know, internet. What'd you say? Oh, yeah. It was, I can't remember if it was her junior or senior year. I say junior. They tell me, no, Mom. She was a senior in high school. And now that was wrong. But I was doing, what type of parenting was I doing? 100% authoritarian. but I wasn't teaching her a skill set. I wasn't teaching her that I trust her. I was saying, you're not old enough or strong enough or smart enough to deal with anything. I lock it down. And guess what she told me, just last week, or, hey Mom, guess what? You thought I didn't have it? I would go here and get on here and do, I'm like, what? Anyway, that's my crazy story. So these kids are actually at higher risk for rebelling, substance abuse, for getting into drugs. They're at higher risk. They're at higher risk for having depression or anxiety or feeling bad about themselves.
اتكلمنا على الاهل المتسيبين نتيجه العيال نفسيتهم بتكون صغيره مش بيحسوا ان في حد فارق معاهم قوي كل حاجه بتيجي بالساهل. المشكله الاكبر بتكون ان لما هم بيكبروا متعودين ياخدوا على طول في كل حاجه من الاهل، فلما بيجوا يخشوا في اي علاقات طبعا ده بيبقى نفس التوقع مع الصداقه فيوتشر وايز مع الزوج او الزوجه قدام، اللي مش بيديهم كل حاجه بيركنوه على جنب ويدوروا على اللي بعده، فده بيخلي كل علاقاتهم وهم كبار يا اما علاقات مكسوره يا اما علاقات غير سويه او مش بتدوم يعني. لا انا حاسه بصوت ابونا مارك في ودني على نوع الاهل ده، الاهل المتسلط، مش لان احنا او شرط الناس اللي قاعده هنا بتعمله، بس خلينا واقعيين يعني الناس اللي في مصر 99.9 زي الانتخابات كده طالعين النوع اللي هو متسلط جدا، الاهل اللي بيحبوا يتحكموا في كل حاجه في الولاد، الكلمه اللي يقولوها ما تتناش، مش مهم ادي سبب للعيال او اشرح لهم ليه، هي لا اللي بتتقال يعني غير كده. يعني كانت بتقول يعني زي اللي هو انتش فهمك انت العيال دول ما يتكلموش في حاجات الكبار يعني، فده تيبيكال جمله اكيد في بيتي انا اتقالت قبل كده بصراحه، ما اعرفش انتوا ناس اشيك مني شويه لكن نوع التحكم الجامد ده النتيجه بتاعته ظاهريا انا متمسك في كل حاجه وانا الكلمه الامر الناهي اللي بقوله بيتنفذ، انا مسيطر على بيتي، رمز الرجوله والبيت اللي محكوم. الناتج بتاعه هو الحاجات التانية. العيال دول يوجولي بيبقوا تعسة للأسف، ما بيحسوش بالحب في نوع التحكم ده. الحاجة التانية انهم كتير جدا بيدوروا على اي طريق انهم يكسروا القوانين دي، تبتدي في سن صغير بحاجات صغيرة وبعدين في السن الكبير تبقى حاجات كبيرة، وفعلا اول لما بيوصلوا سن البلوغ، ويمكن كلنا سمعنا قصص هنا يعني انا بزود شوية على ان في الحتة دي، 18 سنة يقول لك الولد ساب البيت ومشي، عاد اهله ما كلمهمش بقاله شوية، بيعمل كسر كلامهم في الجامعة وساب الجامعة وما كملش، يعني بنسمع ونشوف قصص زي كده ساعات كتيرة. لأن التحكم مش بيدوم صح. وبيبقى في الحقيقة كمان هم مش بنعلمهم أو مش بنمكنهم، ودي حاجة أنا قالتها، إنهم يتعلموا يتصرفوا في المواقف. أنا بكوني قافل عليهم جدا، أنا مش بعلمهم إمكانية التصرف لما يبقى عنده الحرية أو لما يبقى عنده الاختلاط بحاجة معينة.
All right, so that's authoritarian, yeah. So now here comes authoritative. They sound very similar. The way I remember this one, it has 2 T's, and I think of like 2 crosses. So, I don't know. Anyway, so authoritative parents, they have high expectations. They expect their child to achieve high. They have boundaries. They have standards. But at the same time, they are very warm, and they're very loving, and they're very nurturing. They set rules. They have things that are rules in their home. No question. There are rules. What else? What's the difference, though? They're warm and loving, and they are open to discussions. So they may have a rule, but they're open to hearing what the child has to say. And then they engage the child in problem solving together. The child's seen, the child's heard, the child knows he's loved, but there are still standards, guidelines, and expectations. The child, you're raising a child, teaching him how to make decisions in life. And guess who's the best person to practice with? Your parents. Your parents, right? Within all those teachings and those open discussions, you're teaching your child how to be a son or a daughter in Christ, right? That communication's so crucial. So what type of kids do these kids turn out to be? If you were raised mostly by an authoritative parent, what's the outcome of your kid? What's your kid going to look like? This is research. This isn't Anne. This isn't anyone else. This is research. Shows your child is going to be a very happy child. Your child is going to be able to face difficult things, no matter how difficult they are, and they're going to be able to overcome it, right? Your child is going to feel good, proud, confident, have good self-esteem. Your child's going to make good connections with good kids who think more like him or her. Your child's going to be less susceptible, less likely to fall into drugs, right? They're not going to be running around hiding Safari on their phone because they know that you're a reasonable parent. You will talk with him. Does that mean you give in always or you agree? No. You are ultimately the decision maker. You are ultimately in charge. But they know that you're reasonable and you're fair, and they will be heard and seen and loved. They tend to do better academically, these kids. The research shows these are the kids who do well academically. They are not afraid to take appropriate risks, right? So they're strong. This is what we want. These are resilient kids. So, do you want to?
الأسرة الآمرة، أوكي؟ يعني واحد اللي فات ده كان متسلط، صح؟ خنقة شويتين 3 4. الآمر ده نفس الحاجات تقريبا مع فوارق جوهرية كده قالتها، صح؟ إن واحد هم برضو عندهم قوانين في البيت، عندهم حدود لكل حاجة مسموح بيها ومش مسموح بيها، كفكر جوه الأسرة أو كمبادئ جوه الأسرة واضحة جدا، موضحين كل الكلام ده للأولاد، مش هفق يعني، مش أهل كده ممكن أي كلمة توديهم وتجيبهم، لا، الأمور واضحة. بس هي قالت حاجة كبيرة جدا في النص، قالت الفرق هو الحوار المفتوح ما بينهم وما بين الأولاد. يعني أنا بقول الشرط وبقول الحاجة اللي موجودة في البيت، الرول اللي موجود في البيت، بس بشرح ليه ده موجود، ليه المبدأ ده مبدأنا كأسرة، ليه المبدأ ده مبدأ كنسي، وبسمع الولاد وبتحاور معاهم. فبيبقى فيه expectation، لكن في نفس الوقت أنا سامع ومطبطب ومفهم ليه. فالحوار المفتوح ده هو الاختلاف الجوهري ما بين المتسلط، الأسرة المتسلطة والأسرة كده. الحاجة التانية ان هم كمان شايفين عيالهم. انا واخد في الفكر بتاعي شخصية الطفل بتاعي او الطفلة بتاعتي اللي انا بربيها في البيت. يعني العيلة المتسلطة بتبقى الولد مش مهم شخصيته ايه، مش مهم طفل عندي من طفل هادي من طفل شقي من طفل عنده احتياجات خاصة، لا مش مهم، انا قلت ده يتنفذ ايا كان كيان الطفل ده. الاسره الامره لا، دول حاطين في وسط التركيبه دي، في وسط الباكج دي، كل طفل احتياجاته ايه، طريقته ايه، اسلوبه ايه، وهي دي الطريقه اللي بيعملوا بيها تغليف للحاجات اللي هم متطلبينها من الاولاد. العيال دول بدراسات طويلة المدى وسيرفيز كتيرة أثبتت إنهم بيبقوا أسعد. 1. 2. الحوار المفتوح ده بيربي عندهم قدرة على إنهم يعملوا قرار صواب في حدود اللي الأهل كانوا حاطينها في خارج وجود الأهل. ما بقوش بقى عايزة أكسر كلامهم، بقى إيه، أنا بره واتحطيت في موقف مماثل، في حاجة دارت، لأن الحوار ده كان دار كمناقشة بيني وبين أهلي، فبيطبقوه بره، فبيطبقوا القوانين دي بره أكتر بكتير من الأولاد اللي أسرتهم متسلطة اللي بس عايزين يكسروا القوانين. بيجيبوا نمر أحسن لأن نفسيتهم أهدى وعندهم قبول أكتر وفرصة أكتر لأنهم يدوا. بيكونوا عامة عيال بيستخدموا أقل استخدام، إذا كان الحشيش، السجاير، كل الحاجات دي. طبعا انتوا عارفين المجتمع هنا يعني كله بيتعزم عليه طول الوقت من اول ميدل سكول بسمع دلوقتي، فما بقتش حاجه غريبه عن ناس كثيره من اللي قاعدين هنا عيالها بيجت اوفرد الحاجات دي. انا مش، لو انا خايف واهلي في البيت فاكرين انهم متحكمين فيا، انا ممكن اقول ايه ده، طب ما اجرب، ما حدش شايفني ولا حد هيعرف وهم ما يعرفوش فلانه وفلانه. لكن لو انا اوكي واوبن وفي حوار ومتشاف في البيت، انا هقول لا لاني مش مزنوق وممكن ارجع احكي. صدقوا ده حصل النهارده، لان مش متوقع الاهل يقول يا نهار ابيض ده حصل ازاي، اقطع علاقتك بالناس دي لا، في هدوء، في كلام، في حوار، في اخذ. صحيح الولاد يقول ايه ده فعلا غلط، طب ايه، طب انت اتصرفتي ازاي، طب قلتي ايه، مش شك. فالعيل يقول لا 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 انا مش هحكي تاني، انا مالي، مش هحكي تاني، ابسط الامور. فهم ما بيستعملوش مخدرات، نمرهم احسن، ثقتهم في نفسهم احسن، والحوار في البيت كله احسن.
All right, so let's talk about the last parenting style, which is the neglectful child, the neglectful parenting child, or they call it absent, meaning the parent's almost like the parent doesn't even exist, right? So this parent has low expectations, low boundaries, and they're very uninvolved in the child's life. So the parent goes, does what the parent wants to do, comes home, the kid's there, maybe the kid's not there. Parent doesn't call to find out where their child is. Kid goes out for the night, doesn't come home until 3 a.m. Parent doesn't even know. His parent's sleeping, right? So there's also I mean, how would you feel if you were that type of, if you had a parent like that, how would you feel as a child? Do you feel seen? No. Do you feel loved? No. There's nothing there, right? So the child is basically raising themselves. The child is their own parent. I think we can all agree that this type of child is going to have very low self-esteem. They're not going to feel good about themselves. They're going to get into very bad sort of relationships, very bad sort of friendships. Sometimes they even do things on purpose, bad things on purpose, thinking maybe this time my parents will see me or care about me. They definitely have a higher risk for getting into substance abuse. They have a higher risk for doing poor academically. They aren't confident in making decisions, and they don't have very good coping skills. Yeah, okay. So let's go. So what do we think? So those are the 4 parenting styles. So let's take a vote. Ready? Should we vote? Who thinks the permissive parenting style is the best? The one where you can do whatever you want. You want a brand new car, here you go. Nobody? No. Okay. How about authoritarian? Do as I say. I don't care about you. Just be quiet. Good? Bad? No. What about authoritative? The one where we talk and we respect the child and the child knows they're loved. Yes. Okay. Next, we can do next slide. So yes, again, this is what the slide where we know, this is a type of parenting where we know it creates the strongest, most resilient kids who can make good decisions, who feel good about themselves. They do better academically. They do better socially. Okay. So we can go through that. That's the same one. Same slide. So what does this look like? Let's do a little baby example of what an authority, well, I'll tell you, I'll act it out. Do you want to act with me? I'm joking. Jackie, come on. You want to act? Quick. Okay. Well, I'll play both parts. That's fine. You want to be you can be the child. Or,
I just read this.
yeah.
Mommy, I want some cookies. I want some cookies.
No cookies. You can't have cookies. No.
But why?
I said no cookies. I'm the mom and I mean no cookies.
But please, I want some cookies.
I said no cookies. So what happens to the child after that? How's a child going to act? I'll spank you, right? How's a child going to act? Temper tantrum. Right? What will the child do? Maybe the child go steal the cookie afterwards. Does the child even understand why no cookies? Did you no. So let's pretend we replay that and we do it differently. How would we do it differently? Yes. Yes. Yeah, we give reasons. Let's pretend it was right before dinner time. That's what it was supposed to be. So if it's right before dinner time, the child sees the cookies. I want the cookies. I want the cookies. Oh, those do look delicious, don't they?
Yeah.
They are delicious. I know. I want one too. So you agree. You side with them. Does that mean you're giving in? No. But what time is it? You know what time we eat, right? What time is it?
It's almost 9.
Oh, it's almost 9. Did we have dinner? We're about to eat dinner.
Yeah.
So you lead the child down the path to come to their own conclusion. Now, does this mean the child's going to be happy that there's no cookies? No. But what it does mean is you've explained to the child, you gave them reasons, you didn't ignore them. They have some sort of understanding, and they feel that they had a voice. Do we add? Yeah.
So let's say that, okay, I'm going to give an example. So let's say the kid has a test and they're not studying.
Yeah.
An important test. Let them fail. No, so I want them to study. I don't want them to get a bad grade, okay?
Yeah.
So sometimes when I keep being nice and everything and it's not working, maybe I offer help and they're not helpful. So I resort to consequences. So you don't study, then there's no tablet for a week.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to read you the story tonight or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not right or wrong.
I don't think it's wrong per se, but I think what we want to do when our kids is showing a behavior that's undesirable and doesn't make sense, I think the biggest thing you want to do is try to understand what is driving that behavior.
After understanding that, I mean, do you have the right as a parent to force something to change their mind about that behavior?
You do, but I think with the important, you are ultimately the decision maker, right? You are the one, you have to be the ultimate guide and protector, but you need to make sure that there's been enough understanding and conversation going back and forth, and then problem solving outside of the moment, trying to understand, hey buddy, what happened there? Like, what was it that made you? And they will, yeah. Yeah. This is true. Be good.
طيب احنا بنشكر ان ثانك يو ان ذات واز ا بيوتيفول توك. هو التوك النهارده تفتيح ذهن لحوار اكبر، صح؟ يعني الهدف ان احنا نركز شويه احنا مختارين انهي نوع من البيرنتنج ستايل او نبص على نفسنا بمنظار كده، انا فعلا بطبق انهي نوع تربية في بيتي، علشان اعرف. احنا كلنا اسم الصليب الناس ذكية جدا، يعني انا مش شاكة ان اي حد ممكن هنا يصلح مسار، بس ساعات بنكون محتاجين ان احنا نوقف وركز كده، انا بعمل ايه في البيت كل يوم، انا الدي تو دي بتاعي شكله ايه. لان ساعات بيكون نفسنا نبقى الطريقة الظريفة جدا، لكن يوميا بنتشغل في وسط الدنيا والاسلوب بتاع الحياة، ونلاقي نفسنا وقعنا في اسلوب تاني خالص مش هو اللي احنا قصدينه او مش هو هدفنا. فالنهاردة بس كده نعمل بوز نراجع نفسنا واسلوب التربية بتاعنا في البيت شكله ايه، ونعرف ازاي ممكن نصلح بعض الخطوات. اللي عنده اسئلة احنا هنرجع نجيب من الاسبوع الجاي صندوق ونسيبه ورا، للأسف مش موجود النهاردة. اي اسئلة، اي مواضيع مقترحة، اي حاجة تحبوا انتوا تسمعوها، نحب جدا ان انتوا تحطوها. ايه؟ نعمل الارقام بقى.